Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, April 6, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest with the coronavirus, the latest news that came out from the weekend. It's a lot. Classic games that were re-aired over the weekend. The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame has a couple new members I want to talk about. A big coaching change in college basketball on the women's side that I want to address. Last night's episode of American Idol. The country home concert, I want to talk about that a little bit. And then my top 10 award performances of 2019. There's a lot of them, and I had to cut it down to 10. And there's a bunch of honorable mentions that I want to talk about as well. I'm going to talk about the coronavirus first. The biggest thing that happened over the weekend was that Donald Trump spoke with the sports commissioners about charity work and some other things. And the biggest thing to come out of this was that Trump said that he expects the NFL to start on time. We'll see about that. Somebody tweeted this. I think it was Will Brinson of CBS. I want to give him credit. What everybody is throwing out there is just a guess. So we really don't know. So once somebody would come out and say, no, we're not going to have sports for another year, they don't know that. Even Trump doesn't know if the NFL is going to start on time. If it's July 1st and things are back to normal, then we could very well have Major League Baseball and maybe a little NBA and NHL for the summertime. That would be a little interesting if those seasons came back and then we're playing in the summer. WNBA, NASCAR will be back. Maybe golf will be back. So, that's if things are back to normal by, say, June, and we can get everything back going for real in July. A couple of people were pessimistic with Trump's statement about the NFL being back in September, such as California Governor Gavin Newsom and Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. So, both those people spoke about Trump's statement, and both of them seem pessimistic. And even they don't know when things are going to be back to normal. And both of them, to their credit, said that nobody knows and really focus on today, not the future. And I'm sure Trump is thinking like that as well, but he was asked to have a guest, and he said that the NFL he thinks would start on time, so we'll see about that. There's a report out over the weekend that the MLB could have its season, except all in spring training sites in Arizona. Obviously, Arizona is not a hot spot of the coronavirus. That's why they said Arizona, and they could use the Cactus League sites for the games. But the irony is that 15 teams are in the Cactus League. It's like the AL West, the NL West, and some of the AL Central and some of the NL Central, and then the NL East and the AL East are in Florida. So I wonder if they're going to do both Arizona and Florida, but this person that reported it was hearing just Arizona. That would be kind of strange for the grapefruit teams to be pretty much not have somewhere to go unless they do it in Florida as well. And then obviously it would be with empty stadiums. A report came out not that long before I started recording this is that the NFL draft will be virtual. This should come to no surprise. There was some speculation about this last week, and here we are. I think it's the right thing to do. The statement to the clubs was that in response to developing conditions and the advice of medical and public health experts, authorities at all levels of government have expanded the scope and extended duration of orders requiring residents to shelter in place and closing non-essential businesses. These orders now cover the vast majority of residents, including every NFL home community. In some locations, these orders extend as far as June, and we should expect that this trend will continue. As you know, our offices have been closed since March 13th, and all club facilities have been closed since March 26th. These steps were taken to protect our players and staffs to model appropriate behavior and to ensure competitive equality among 32 clubs. Given current and expected conditions, and to ensure that we operate responsibly and in full compliance with current regulations, both league and club facilities will remain closed indefinitely. We will reopen facilities when it's safe to do so based on medical and public health advice and in compliance with governor mandates. Because of these circumstances, clubs have been advised to prepare to conduct the 2020 draft entirely outside of their facilities and in a full virtual format with club personnel separate locations and able to communicate with one another in draft headquarters by phone or internet. We have reviewed this matter in the past few days with both the Competition Committee and the SEC or CEC, and this will confirm that clubs will conduct their draft operations remotely with club personnel separately located in their homes. So like I said, this shouldn't come to a surprise, and I think this is the right thing to do because you never know who could be exposed from somebody from a front office, and then it can spread and whatnot. I'm interested to see how the networks are going to do their coverage as well. The NFL Network, the ESPN ABC combo. What are they going to do with their coverage? That, I think, is what's going to be next. More big news that came out today is that the Masters is intending to play their 2020 Masters during the week of November 9th through the 15th, Augusta in fall. I like that. I'm interested to see what that's like. Assuming things are okay by then we could have the Masters in November of 2020 and April of 2021. So we have two Masters as in not even a 6-month span. So I think that's actually pretty neat for golf fans, even though it's not in the best circumstances of why they're doing this. So that is huge news, and the best golf tournament of them all looks like it's going to happen, but except later in the year. And another thing that crossed to my mind, the Homestead Miami race in NASCAR, and their finale is normally that weekend as well, that Sunday. So that would be an interesting from a rating standpoint. You have that, you have the NFL and the Masters all going up against each other. I know it's only a one-time deal of this, but it'd be really interesting from a rating standpoint. And then the American Music Awards is normally that weekend too, or the following weekend. I really don't remember, but sometimes it is held that weekend. So it looks like we're headed for a very busy November in sports. Now I want to talk about games that were re-aired over the weekend. 2010 NBA Finals Game 7. Obviously, Kobe Bryant gets his 5th ring. Finals MVP for the second time in his career. Celtics came darn close to winning that game. They got hot from 3 late, but the Lakers hit some big shots as well. I remember a big shot by Ron Artest to put the Lakers up 6, and then the Celtics came right back and hit a 3 to make it a 3-point game. So, credit the Celtics for not giving up in that game. Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Kendrick Perkins was injured, and the what if of that series is if Kendrick Perkins was healthy, the Boston Celtics probably win that title and not the Lakers. And Rasheed Wallace did a really good job replacing Perkins, and actually was a stretch 5 for them in that series, hitting some big threes in that series as well. And ultimately, the Lakers came away victorious. Kobe had a poor statistical Game 7, but got hot in the 4th quarter. Pau Gasol hit some big shots. Derek Fisher had a big game-tying 3 in the 4th quarter. Lakers were down 13 in the 3rd quarter, and then they rallied and ended up winning that title. And speaking of these two teams, they also met in 2008 except the Celtics came out on top. That Game 6, it wasn't really a classic game, but it's a game that's big in NBA history because it broke a Celtics championship drought and involved a lot of future Hall of Famers, too, that I'm going to talk about in a moment here when I get to the Basketball Hall of Fame and Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett. It was the start of that Celtics era with the big three and Rondo, and they had Perkins then. They had a lot of good role players on that team. That Game 6 was a blowout, but it was a game that was on TV over the weekend that I just wanted to give a mention to. An absolute classic of a game, Mississippi State, Notre Dame 2018 women's national title game. It was a fantastic game. Went down to the very, 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 very end. This game ended on a buzzer beater by Akin Ongumbali, which was a fantastic shot. The 3-point shot to win the title for Notre Dame in 2018. And another classic game that was re-aired was Rangers-Canadiens 2014 Eastern Conference Finals, a game where the Rangers clinched to go to the Stanley Cup Final. 1-0 win. Henrik Lundqvist stood on top of his head. Something that I forgot about in this series is that Carey Price was injured in that series. He got hurt in Game 1, and then the backup goalie came in and did an admirable job to keep the Habs in it. He stole a couple games for them, and they ultimately fell short against the Rangers. It's just that their offense couldn't do anything against Henrik Lundqvist, and that's why they lost that series, not because of the absence of Carey Price. Now I want to talk about the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame inductees. Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Tamika Catchings among the notable four that I want to discuss. Obviously, Kobe. This was obviously well-deserved. I think he's the best player in this class, the most accomplished player in this class, the most popular player in this class. It's just unfortunate that he couldn't be here with his family to celebrate this moment. Vanessa and the oldest Bryant daughter, I'm just blanking on her name, spoke to ESPN on their show and said that this was a great honor for Kobe, and they're obviously devastated that he can't be there to celebrate during quarantine with them. Tim Duncan was somebody I felt was very underrated in this class due to the presence of Kobe. He's also a 5-time NBA champion and a 15-time All-NBA guy, as was Kobe. It's just that Duncan played in a small market, and I think that hurt him. And the fact that Kobe played in Los Angeles helped him. And Duncan obviously won MVP a couple times. He won Defensive Player of the Year. In my opinion, the best coach in NBA history, Greg Popovich, although people would say Phil Jackson. Some people even say Pat Riley, but I think it's Greg Popovich because of what he did with the Spurs to keep him relevant for so long. And I think that Phil Jackson, the case against Phil Jackson is that he had a lot of talent. He was a good coach, but what hurt his resume in terms of his place in NBA circles was his failure at being the New York Knicks president for those couple of years. So I think that hurt Phil's case to being one of the best ever. But he's one of the best coaches ever, but not certainly the best ever. The best ever is Greg Popovich in my mind. Doing it in a small market with guys like Duncan and Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard, the list goes on. And Duncan Robinson, obviously, or not Duncan Robinson, Robinson from the Spurs. I had Duncan Robinson in my head because that's actually a player in the NBA. But yeah, Tim Duncan was an absolute star from the moment he got drafted. Obviously, David Robinson, that's who I was blanking on, was teammates with Tim Duncan his first couple years in the league. The Spurs were supposed to be a good team the year before they drafted Duncan, but they had a lot of injuries, and they got lucky in the lottery and drafted Tim Duncan, and that pretty much helped Greg Popovich's legacy in that franchise. And he's obviously the best Spur ever, Tim Duncan. You could argue Robinson, but I think Tim Duncan's the best Spur ever. And you could argue Kobe was the best Laker ever. It's between him and Kareem and Magic Johnson. And then obviously LeBron James now. But yeah, I really think you could absolutely say that Tim Duncan was the best player in that franchise's history. Now he's an assistant coach under Greg Popovich with the Spurs, so that is pretty ironic. Kevin Garnett, obviously a very good player in his heyday. At his peak of his powers, he was on the Timberwolves. He won the MVP one time with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's only made the playoffs like once or twice or a few times with them. And then they started to lose a lot, and then he requested a trade, and then he ended up going to Boston for a package that was not thought out to be that strong. But Minnesota did turn out somewhat okay. They ended up getting Al Jefferson in that deal, who was a solid player for them for a little while. But the what if of Garnett's career is if he got traded a couple years earlier, but obviously the other what if there's the team, if he was traded sooner, then it would have been the Celtics or somebody else. But he was a great Celtic too. He won the Defensive Player of the Year the first year he was in Boston, as they won the championship that year, and then they made the finals in 2010, lost in 7 to the Lakers. And then in 2013, he was traded to Brooklyn with Paul Pierce and Jason Terry, and the Celtics got all those draft picks back, and 2 of them turned into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, so that is one of the biggest win trades for the Celtics in their franchise's history, especially if they win a title with this current core led by Tatum and Brown. And Garnett retired a couple years after he was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. He actually got traded back to the Timberwolves. I just remember this. And then Brooklyn ended up getting Thaddeus Young in that deal. And he did technically finish his career with Minnesota. So that was like a cute homecoming for his last season in the NBA for Garnett. And then Tamika Catchings, one of the best WNBA and college basketball players of all time. Obviously, she played for the Indiana Fever, and she is somebody that played for Tennessee, the 3rd overall pick in 2001. She won the WNBA MVP in 2011, and she won a title in 2012, including the Finals MVP that year. She was a 12-time All-WNBA teamer, 10-time All-Star. She won the Defensive Player of the Year 5 times. She's one of the best WNBA players in history, and she absolutely deserves this honor to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Now I want to talk about a coaching change in college basketball on the women's side. Vic Schaefer from Mississippi State just went to Texas. That is a huge hire for the Longhorns. The Longhorns continue their trend in sports of hiring big names. So far, Shaka Smart has not worked out, and neither has, let's face it, Tom Herman. None of those guys have worked out. Neither of them have lived up to expectations. I think I think the coronavirus probably saved Shaka Smart's job at Texas, if you asked me. But you never know. Some of these coaching changings are still happening, but you could certainly make a case that coronavirus saved his job, and that's not really fair to say, but it might be true, because if they didn't make the tournament, then he probably would have been fired. So Vic Schaefer goes to Texas to be their head coach. Obviously, he turned Mississippi State into a power. But now he leaves there to go to Texas as he replaces a coach that did a nice job in women's basketball, who just got let go. I think that their old coach Karen Aston will find success elsewhere, as I think somebody else that's looking for head coaching job may look at her as a target. Coaches I think could replace Schaefer at Michigan State. Kelly Graves of Oregon, maybe. He's really turned that program into somewhat of a powerhouse in the Pac-12. Sabrina Ionescu. Obviously, he just coached, and she's going to be picked number 1 overall in the WNBA draft. Tara Van Derver, I don't think will leave Stanford. Obviously, Gino Auriemma is not leaving UConn. I think that is the safest bet in sports right now. Or among one of the safest bets is that Gino Auriemma won't leave UConn. Kim Mulkey, I don't think will leave Baylor. So I don't think she's in play for the Mississippi State job. Dawn Staley, I don't see leaving South Carolina for Mississippi State. So I don't see her going anywhere. A coach I could see in play for this Mississippi State job is West Virginia's Mike Carey. He's done a nice job with the Mountaineers a couple years, gotten them to the tournament a few times, so I wouldn't rule that out. I mentioned Oregon's coach as like a long shot possibility, but I think Mike Carey's realistic for Mississippi State. Another coach that I think is a little bit of a long shot, Matthew Mitchell of Kentucky. I think that is a little bit of somewhat of a long shot. A coach that I think did a good job this past year, Villanova's Denise Dillon. I think she did a really good job with Villanova this past year. And I think one of the more underrated coaches in women's college basketball right now is Gonzaga's Lisa Forater. I won't be surprised if she's in play at Michigan State, or Mississippi State. So, those are a couple names to keep an eye on in terms of the job. And I wonder if any of the names I mentioned to replace Vic Schaefer could be in play at Mississippi State. Now I want to talk about last night's episode of American Idol. Obviously, it's going to be the last real quote-unquote show until everything's cleared out because of COVID-19. But the surprise was not that. The surprise is that they picked a top 21 instead of a top 20 because they couldn't decide on these last two girls. So they put them both in, and they're having America vote. I have a 2-day vote on who stays and who goes. So the one with the most votes will move on to the top 20. The one with the lesser amount of votes will obviously go home. But those two girls, I think, did an outstanding job in their performances. Lauren Mesquity and Grace Lear. Grace Lear saying, "You make me feel like a natural woman." Lauren Mesquity saying, "Two more bottles of wine" by Emmylou Harris. I think Grace Lear should move on. I think she's the better performer on Sunday night. So I think that Grace will go on, although Lauren, that'll be a tough omission because I think the top 20 is very, very talented as a whole. Dylan James, that started off the episode. It ended last week's episode as a teaser of whether he was going to advance or not. But Dylan James, who sang "The Times Are Changing" by Bob Dylan, advances. Genevieve Linkowski said "You Say" by Lauren DeSeal. She did not go through. I think that was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought she was very good. Franklin Boone sang "Daughters" by John Mayer. He went through. Julia Gargano sang "Glitter in the Air" by Pink. I thought that was the best performance of last night's episode. She advances. Elena Jester sang "This Is Me" by The Greatest Showman, or from The Greatest Showman. She advances. Sophia Wackerman sang "Levels" by Nick Jonas. She advances. Robert Taylor sang "Take Me to the Pilot" by Elton John. He did not advance. That's unfortunate. I think he did a good job. Kimmy Gabrielle advances. She sang "You Don't Do It For Me Anymore." Shannon Gibson did not advance. She sang "Send My Love." Sanaya Elise advanced. She sang "Lady Marmalade" by Patti LaBelle. Michaela Phillips advanced. She did a nice job with her performance. Olivia Zimis, I thought, had her best performance of the season so far. She did her own little choreography dance along with her singing to Proud Mary by Tina Turner. That was outstanding. Arthur Gunn performed Is This Love by Bob Marley and the Wailers. He advances. Demi Ray sang Lonely by Noah Cyrus. She did not advance. So, without further ado, your top 20. Nick Marrico, Dwayne Crocker Jr., Louis Knight, Francisco Martin, Jovan Webb, Faith Bentel, Just Sam, Johnny West, Dylan James, Franklin Boone, Julia Gargano, Elena Jester, Sophia Wackerman, Kimmy Gabriella, Sanaya Elise, Michaela Phillips, Olivia Zimis, Arthur Gunn, Grace Lear, or Laura Moschetti. And I mean, or between Lear and Moschetti. One of those two will join the other 19. The other will unfortunately go home. It's going to be a tough vote. I think Grace Lear will go through. I thought she was better than Lauren on last night's show. So that's that. Now I want to talk about the Country Home concert that was on last night on Channel 2. Good show, in my opinion. There was a lot of good, solid performances by everyone that performed. It was hosted by Gayle King, who I think did a great job. The performers were Kelsey Ballerini, Dierks Bentley, Kane Brown and John Legend, Luke Bryan, Brandi Carlile, Eric Church, Luke Combs, Sheryl Crow, Florida Georgia Line, Lady Antebellum, Miranda Lambert, Little Big Town, Tim McGraw, Old Dominion, Brad Paisley and Darius Rucker, Thomas Rhett, Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani, Shania Twain, Carrie Underwood, and Keith Urban. That was a great lineup, and I think everybody did a great job. And I'm sure you'll see more concerts from home. I think ABC and NBC have yet to air something like this. Fox, obviously, last weekend had Elton John host the iHeartRadio one. And now on CBS, you had the ACM Presents Our Country 2-hour show hosted by Gayle King. Now we'll talk about my top 10 performances of 2019. There's so many honorable mentions that I want to talk about on here. So my honorable mentions. This was a big one. It was a Dolly Parton tribute with Parton herself, Casey Musgraves, Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, Maren Morris, and Little Big Town. They performed Here You Come Again, Jolene, After the Gold Rush, Red Shoes, and 9 to 5, and this was at the Grammys. Diana Ross performing The Best Years of My Life and Reach Out and Touch at the Grammys. Chloe Exhale did the Donna Hathaway tribute of Where is the Love at the Grammys. Kelly Clarkson did a huge medley. Meant to Be, East Side, Boot Up, Girls Like You, The Middle, One Kiss, I Like It, Love Lies, High Hopes, Tequila, Material Girl, Touch My Body, and Wow. Now it's at the Billboards. Bette Midler, The Place Where Lost Things Go at the Oscars. Madonna and Maluma, Medellin at the Billboards. Panic at the Disco, Hey Look Ma, I Made It at the Billboards. Shawn Mendes featuring Miley Cyrus, In My Blood at the Grammys. Alicia Keys' Songs I Wish I Wrote. Maple Leaf Rag she opened with on the piano, and she had 2 pianos, which I thought was awesome. Killing Me Softly with his song. Lucid Dreams, Unforgettable, Clocks, Use Somebody, Boot Up, In My Feelings, The Doo-Wop, That Thing, Empire State of Mind, and that was at the Grammys. Brandi Carlile with The Joke at the Grammys. Lady Gaga, Mark Ronson, Andrew Wyatt, and Anthony Rosamondo with Shallow at the Grammys. Ciara, Thinking About You at the Billboards. Paula Abdul with the medley of Straight Up, The Way That You Love Me, Vibology, Opposites Attract, Cold Hearted Snake, and Forever Your Girl at the Billboards. The Aretha Franklin tribute by Fantasia, Yolanda Adams, and Andra Day of You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman at the Grammys. Kelly Clarkson's performance of Broken and Beautiful at the Billboards. Jennifer Lopez, Smokey Robinson, Alicia Keys, and Neo at the Motown 60 tribute of Dancing in the Street. Please, Mr. Postman, Money, Do You Love Me, ABC, My Girl, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, War, Square Biz, and Another Star at the Grammys. Casey Musgraves' Rainbow at the Grammys. Lauren Daigle's You Say at the Billboards. Jennifer Hudson, I'll Fight at the Oscars. Dan and Shay, Tequila at the Grammys. Billie Eilish, All the Good Girls Go to Hell at the AMAs. Or I'm sorry, the Billboards. Oh yeah, no, it was at the AMAs. My bad. And Dan and Shay featuring Tori Kelly with Speechless at the Billboards. And without further ado, my top 10 performances of 2019. 10th place. Taylor Swift with You Need to Calm Down and Love Her at the VMAs. 9th place. Casey Musgraves and Willie Nelson, Rainbow Connection and Rainbow at the CMAs. 8th place. Adam Lambert and Queen, We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions at the Oscars. 7th place. Luke Combs, Beer Never Broke My Heart at the CMAs. 6th place. The Jonas Brothers, Jealous, Cake by the Ocean, and Sucker at the Billboards. 5th place. Taylor Swift, The Man, Love Story, I Knew You Were in Trouble, Blank Space, and Shake It Off and Lover at the VMAs. That was her tribute for winning Artist of the Decade, which was well deserved. 4th place, Mariah Carey with a medley of A No No, Always Be My Baby, Emotions, We Belong Together, and Hero at the Billboards. 3rd place, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, Shallow at the Oscars. 2nd place, Taylor Swift and Brendan Urie of Panic at the Disco with Me at the Billboards. That was a great performance. A bunch of colors and brought really happiness to a lot of people's homes that night. And number 1, Pink and Chris Stapleton with Love Me Anyway at the CMAs. This was outstanding, in my opinion. Pink with a little country vibe was different. I think Pink is one of the best singers out there. I think that she's certainly one of the GOATs of this century with all her great pop music. And I loved her switching it up a little bit, going with country with Chris Stapleton here. And this performance of Love Me Anyway was absolutely sensational. All right, tomorrow's show, we'll talk about the latest with the coronavirus. We'll talk about any sports news that breaks. I'm going to do my 2017 NFL redraft and my top 10 songs of 2018. So, I hope you guys have a great day, everyone.